Well, with me is now George Selgin. He is senior fellow at the Cato Institute Center for Monetary and Financial Alternatives. Has written a lot of books about inflation, but also about monetary systems and cryptocurrencies. George, the future is digital, everybody believes. Say the circulation of paper money slowly is declining. A lot of alternatives have appeared, Bitcoin, Ether, stable coins. Is that really the future, and how stable are stable coins?
Well, Peter, I think that the digitization of money, I should say the more complete digitization of money is the future. Paper currency is very, very old-fashioned. And I think it would have disappeared a long time ago had it been...
Some advantages, though.
It has certain advantages for privacy, that's correct. But I think it would have given way to digital alternatives a long time ago if governments had encouraged financial innovation in this area. But on the contrary, governments have been very jealous of their monopoly control of circulating money. And it's for this reason that the innovations we're seeing lately have come from outside the conventional payments community, banks, etc., coming from financial technology innovators outside of the... Yes, fintechs. And now the question, of course, is the future going to be one where these fintechs finally provide digital substitutes for currency, or where governments themselves do so? And of course, the movement we see among central banks and governments for central bank digital currency is itself a response to this private innovation.
It seems they first mocked it and now they fear it.
That's exactly right. They mocked it, now they fear it, and now they want to do it instead of letting the private sector do it. I think that this would be going in the wrong direction. But of course, I should say that I think that the monopolization of paper currency by governments was a mistake, because a lot of my research concerns the private provision of paper currency in so-called free banking systems in the past. And what is, I think, still not well known is how well some of those competitive currency systems worked.
Even though they also sometimes had their problems.
Some of them, of course, and it very much depends on how broad one's definition is. The United States had terrible decentralized paper currency system. But if you look at the details, you find that almost all the problems were due to faulty government regulation, whereas in places like Scotland and Canada, they were very, very stable and successful.
Even in Switzerland
for
some period of time.
That's right, the different cantons.
National banks.
That's right, yes. So now we're seeing the same clash, the same choice.
Here is in the spirit of Austrian economics and close to Hayek. And Hayek, in his late years, published the nationalization of money, where seeing the inflation surge in the 70s, he suggested that one should have free competition of private money. What we are now observing in this crypto world is we have cryptocurrencies, at least they are called currencies. One can discuss whether they are currency proper.
Indeed.
And we have stable coins. Is this Hayek's new world of private currency competition emerging?
Yes and no. I think Bitcoin and the other free-floating digital currencies that are new independent units, not stable coins, they do look like attempts to implement Hayek's proposal. The most radical part of his proposal was that there should be private alternatives to fiat money that resemble fiat money, but are issued on the strength of trust in their private issuers. And he felt that competition would encourage sound issuers by making them survive. allowing them to
Discipline the
survive.
issuers.
Yes. Now, in some ways, the Bitcoin and these other altcoins resemble Hayek's idea. They have not, they haven't proven his thesis, however, most obviously, because they have not really gained a lot of ground as media of exchange. Bitcoin is, of course, the most important and has gained a very large market, but the market is one for it's very volatile, and the reason it's popular is as an investment or speculative medium. Its use as a medium of exchange, as money, has been very, very limited. So we can't say that it is an achievement or realization of Hayek's vision.
However, at least it has its own algorithm, its own idea.
Absolutely.
Of
In some ways, it's more clever or better. It's better than Hayek's idea, because Hayek never really had a convincing argument of why the private issuers of fiat money wouldn't take advantage to inflate. Yeah. He didn't really solve that problem. Bitcoin does solve that problem because the algorithm absolutely guarantees there can be no cheating, no sudden confiscation of the value of the money through overissue.
But stablecoins don't solve these problems, given that they are basically a digital variant of
That's correct.
money.
That's correct. Stablecoins don't represent realizations in any sense of Hayek's scheme. In fact, Hayek was very critical of the idea of people copying the established money with substitutes. I think he was wrong. I think that he seemed here to be unaware of the success of the Scottish and other free banking systems that we were talking about before. And he thought that he equated having people issue direct substitutes for established monies with duplication of those monies, with counterfeits, with creating exact copies. Of course, this wouldn't work. But if the individual issuers indicate the source of their money so that it can be returned to them for redemption, then that's no different than checks and that sort of thing. Anyway, stablecoins are more like those old-fashioned banknotes. But, of course, they're digital, and they have the advantages of digital money. And here I think, though Hayek did not promote this idea, stablecoins do offer some promise of digitizing currency. In that sense, they offer hope for denationalizing the actual money stock, though it would still be based on a national monetary unit. So if we all used dollar stablecoins and other private substitutes, we would have a dollar that is fundamentally under the control of the Federal Reserve, but our actual money supply would be denationalized. So it's a kind of denationalization.
Despite all criticism about fiat money, obviously they are still very attractive. If you look at Latin America, where you have countries with really terrible monetary systems like Argentina or Ecuador, so the solution usually is dollarization.
That's correct.
And not moving into some kind of cryptocurrency. Yes. Or Bitcoin.
Why is that so?
Why is that so?
Well, and this is another aspect of competition in currencies that Hayek really overlooked in his essays. Because one of the most important aspects of any currency that makes it attractive is how popular it already is, how widely used it is. It's true that other things being equal, yes, people prefer a currency that is not rapidly losing value to one that is. And there are other aspects of currency quality that people care about. But the thing they care about the most is how many stores will you be able to use this stuff at, to buy things with? And the dollar is king in this regard. It is not only completely entrenched in the United States. There's hardly a place you cannot buy things with dollars in the United States. But it's not only the case in the United States. The dollar is widely accepted worldwide. So for that reason alone, notwithstanding the fact that the dollar loses value year after year after year, and sometimes more rapidly than others, the dollar remains extremely attractive for that reason. And we see even bad currencies, much worse currencies, I should say, that continue to have a large market, even with high inflation rates, because switching to something else means leaving this network, and that has very high costs.
So you believe the news of the decline of the dollar as a world currency are highly exaggerated?
I absolutely do. Now, it would be a mistake to think that just because something is dominant, it can never cease to be so. Under certain conditions.
And the function of cryptocurrencies, do they discipline fiat issuers, or how do you see
don't
the future?
think they discipline fiat issuers for the most part, although it's certainly the case that many central bankers seem to be very afraid of these currencies for various reasons. But I think the fear is mainly about the fact that they can be used for anonymous transactions, and it's really a regulatory fear. It's a fear that they'll undermine the know your customer laws and money laundering laws and that sort of thing.
Has some truth in it.
Of course it does, yes.
Also for consumers, it's very difficult with all these kind of different cryptocurrencies to see what algorithms really are behind and how transparent they are, etc.
Yes.
Do we need a regulation of cryptocurrencies?
No, I don't think we do for consumer safety, for the simple reason that these are highly speculative currencies, to call them that. It's notorious that they're high risk. I think experience
but for
alone
them to
should
become more mature, wouldn't it help if you have regulated currencies?
In some ways it would. I think for stable coins, for example, I think things like Bitcoin are best just left alone, right, as far as risk is concerned.
Because of the decentralized.
It's like trying to regulate casinos. What's the point? But with stable coins, where they really do have a potential to become important exchange media and substitutes for regular currency, I think it would help both the stablecoin industry and consumers for them to be invited into the official payments networks, made part of them, integrated with them. Central banks have instead, in some countries, not all, but the Federal Reserve is certainly an example, have been trying to lock the door to them, so to speak, and not let them be part of the established payment system. And so, as a result of that, they drive them offshore, away from the regulatory umbrella. They make them less stable than they could be. Whereas if they're part of the established dollar payment system, they're subject to direct competition with the banks.
You would arguing for fintech licenses?
Yes, yes. They should be allowed to compete, of course, subject to regulations. They should be allowed to compete because this is something we learned from the past, from the better free banking systems. The most valuable source of regulation in any competitive money system or any private money system is the rivalry between the different issuers and their tendency to constantly test each other with active return and redemption of the respective liabilities.
In that sense, Hayek was definitely right. Competition helps this.
I think that's right, yeah. I think at bottom, that basic claim of Hayek is true, and the question is only what form this competition and the monies that it entails can take practically.
George Selgin, thanks a lot.
You're very welcome,
for this
Peter.
interesting discussion.
Thank you.